I have covered this league for a very long time, and if there is one thing I have learned about the landscape of the NFL, it is that stability at the quarterback position is the single most valuable currency a franchise can possess. Today, I am bringing you a report that confirms the Indianapolis Colts are leaning heavily into that philosophy of stability, even in the face of significant physical adversity. According to recent reports from heavy and various league sources, General Manager Chris Ballard has made his intentions very clear regarding the future of the team. The Colts are planning to re-sign their starting quarterback despite the devastating Achilles injury he suffered back in Week 14. This is a move that resonates through every level of the organization, and I want to break down exactly why this decision is being made and what it means for our future. Before I get into the deep technical analysis of the contract and the medical recovery timeline, I have a small favor to ask of you. I want you to subscribe to this channel and hit that like button right now. It is the absolute best way to stay connected with the team and ensure you never miss a breaking update like this one. Also, I am very curious about our global community today. Please leave a comment below and let me know exactly which city you are watching from. I make it a point to read these, and it is incredible to see how far the horseshoe reaches. Now, let us talk about the man at the center of this story. When the injury happened in Week 14, it felt like the air was sucked out of the stadium. An Achilles rupture is one of the most difficult injuries for a professional athlete to overcome, especially for a quarterback who relies on a firm base to generate velocity and the ability to navigate a collapsing pocket. However, the report indicates that there is a strong mutual interest between the player and the front office to secure a return for the 2026 season. I have spent years watching Chris Ballard operate, and he is not a man who makes emotional decisions. He is a scout at heart who relies on data and character evaluation. By expressing this intent to re-sign the quarterback, Ballard is signaling that the internal evaluation of his performance prior to the injury was overwhelmingly positive. I have looked at the game film from the first 13 weeks, and the progression was undeniable. We saw a player who was finally clicking with Shane Steichen's complex offensive system. The decision-making was faster, the accuracy on intermediate routes was improving, and most importantly, the leadership in the huddle was unquestioned. When a general manager sees that kind of growth, he is very hesitant to throw it away just because of a freak injury. The technical side of this recovery is also a major factor. In previous decades, an Achilles tear was often the end of a career, but modern surgical techniques and aggressive rehabilitation protocols have changed the narrative. I have talked to medical experts who suggest that with a 9 to 12-month recovery window, a player can return with nearly all of his pre-injury explosiveness. By the time the 2026 season kicks off, he will have had ample time to test that leg and regain his confidence. This mutual interest is the most telling part of the report. It suggests that the player feels supported by the organization and believes that Indianapolis is the best place for him to succeed long-term. In an era where players often look for the first chance to test the market, this kind of loyalty is a breath of fresh air. It simplifies things for the front office because they do not have to spend the entire offseason wondering if they need to pivot to a rookie or a high-priced veteran in free agency. They have their man, and now they can focus on building the roster around him. I think it's important to realize that this decision also impacts the draft strategy. If the Colts were not planning to re-sign him, we would be looking at a situation where they might have to trade up and sacrifice multiple first-round picks to find a replacement. Instead, they can use those assets to find a dynamic playmaker at wide receiver or a shutdown corner to bolster the defense. This is about building a complete team around a quarterback they believe in. I will be diving much deeper into the financial structure of how this deal might look and the impact on the rest of the roster in the second part of this script, so stay with me as we continue this comprehensive analysis of the Indianapolis Colts' future.
As we continue our deep dive into the Indianapolis Colts' strategic decision to retain their starting quarterback for the 2026 season, we must look at the ripple effects this has on the entire locker room and the AFC South landscape. I have always said that the most important thing for a young roster is knowing who their leader is when they walk into the building on Monday morning. By securing this re-signing, Chris Ballard is providing that certainty. I want to talk about the financial implications, because this is where the expertise of the front office really shines. When you are re-signing a player coming off a major injury, the contract structure usually reflects a balance of risk and reward. I expect this deal to include significant performance-based incentives and perhaps some protections for the team in case of a setback. However, by doing this deal now, the Colts are likely saving money compared to what they would have to pay if the quarterback hit the open market and entered a bidding war. I have looked at the projected salary cap for 2026, and the Colts are currently in a very healthy position. They have the flexibility to make this move while still having enough room to extend other key players, like our star offensive linemen. Continuity on the line is just as important as the quarterback himself. If you have a veteran under center who knows the protection schemes and can get the team into the right play at the line of scrimmage, it makes everyone else's job easier. I also want to consider the perspective of head coach Shane Steichen. Steichen is a brilliant offensive mind who builds his playbook around the specific strengths of his players. He has spent the last year tailoring this offense to his quarterback skill set. If he had to start over with a new player in 2026, it would mean another year of growing pains and missed opportunities. By keeping the same signal caller, the Colts can hit the ground running the moment he is cleared for full contact. I have seen how much the players in the locker room respect this quarterback. They saw the work he put in during the offseason, and they saw the way he handled the injury with grace and determination. That kind of culture is hard to build and even harder to replace. Looking at the division, we see the Houston Texans and Jacksonville Jaguars making big moves to stay competitive. The AFC South is no longer a division that can be won with mediocre quarterback play. You need a guy who can win games in the fourth quarter. The Colts front office clearly believes they have that guy. The Achilles injury is a hurdle, but it is not an insurmountable one. I remember watching other great players return from similar setbacks, and often they come back with a better understanding of the game because they spent so much time in the film room during their rehab. I expect the 2026 version of this quarterback to be the most cerebral version we have ever seen. He will have to rely more on his pre-snap reads and his pocket movement, which can actually lead to more efficient play overall. To summarize our discussion today, the Indianapolis Colts have signaled a major commitment to their future by planning to re-sign their star quarterback despite the injury he suffered in Week 14. Chris Ballard is betting on the player's character, the medical staff's expertise, and the offensive system's stability. This is a move that prioritizes the long-term health of the franchise over a quick fix. It is a bold and calculated risk that shows the strength of the organization's convictions. I will be monitoring every development in these negotiations, and I will bring you the news the moment the ink is dry on the contract. This is a fascinating time to be a Colts fan, and I am honored to be your source for this kind of in-depth analysis. Thank you for spending your time with me today. Before you go, please make sure you have subscribed to the channel and liked the video if you found this information valuable. It truly makes a difference for us. I am looking forward to reading your comments about your city and your thoughts on this major roster decision. Stay tuned for more updates as we follow the journey of the Indianapolis Colts back to the top of the NFL. I will see you in the next one.